Make no mistake about it, the tsunami of Chinese electric vehicles is coming. And Europe is sleepwalking into an abyss.
Decarbonization is leading to deindustrialization in Europe, and the competition isn't always fair.
Sometimes it feels that we are not competing on the same rules with our competitors.
If it's not fair, we have to just simply use our trade defense mechanisms.
As long as the European automotive industry will start to feeling much better than today.
We need to get our act together, from mine to electric vehicle.
In 10 years, how many new mines do you think we will have in Europe?
I hope that we talk about at least something between 10 to 15.
If the European car industry wants a future, we in the Nordics would be happy to provide the critical raw materials needed to make it happen.
And the Nordic countries lead by example.
Det här var ett klipp från den nya dokumentären Made in the EU from Mine to Electric Vehicle. And here we have Tom Peter Jones, a researcher and presenter in this film. Very much welcome to Sweden and Hindersmässa.
Well, thank you very much, but I should have had some Swedish lessons before I came here because I had no clue what you were talking about in the debates, apart from Critical Raw Materials Act and China.
Yeah, China was mentioned quite a few times.
Yes,
yeah.
I understand.
So who are you and why was this documentary made?
Well, I'm the director of the KU Leuven Institute for Sustainable Metals and Minerals, which is an interdisciplinary institute at the biggest university in Belgium, very close to Brussels. And as part of several European projects that we are involved in, we also make documentaries on the mine to EV value chain. And this is our second documentary, and there's some more coming up pretty soon.
And why did you want to do it?
Because I want to wake up Europe, I want to wake up people, because, as I say in the trailer, we're sleepwalking into the abyss. We think we are superior towards the rest of the world, but the Chinese have caught us up very quickly. They've taken the lead, and the world has changed. We don't live in the neoliberal free trade world anymore of the past decades. We live in a new era, which is governed by resource nationalism, protectionism. I think you talked about it. I heard Inflation Reduction Act, I heard China. So I guess you are saying the same thing. There are new rules in the world. So if we don't wake up and adapt the way we play the game, we're going to lose out pretty quickly.
And how is this, what's going to happen to this documentary? How is it coming out into the world?
Well, it's actually already been launched during the EU Raw Materials Week in Brussels. We've had several avant-premières in Leuven as well, so it's already available on our Vimeo channel of SIM² KU Leuven at the moment. So it's already out there, but I'm very happy to present it here in Sweden. We had the premiere in Zitta Cinema in Stockholm 2 days ago.
That's right. That's very cool cinema, by the way.
Very cool building, very old, very special. And there were some quite important people in the room, I understand, although I didn't know them personally. Some ex-ministers, I understood.
Yeah. We're going to watch clips from this movie. One of the speakers said that we are now entering a new era, the rare metal era. And that's a perspective that I suppose many people, perhaps most people outside this room, haven't really thought about. We're going to watch the next clip.
Now we can finally drive to the Pergeia deposit. Since the discovery in the beginning of 2023, miners have been drilling a tunnel from the operational mine to Europe's largest rare earth deposit. It contains about 1.3 million tons of rare earth oxides, including neodymium, that are waiting to be mined.
So we see the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning.
It's up to you to choose.
Hello.
Hello, welcome. Welcome to the exploration rift for Pergeia deposit.
We finally made it after a long travel down. So, how far are we from the beginning of the Pergeia deposits here?
Approximately 5 kilometers, but the total length of the exploration drift is around 8 kilometers.
So you still need to dig 5 kilometers to get there. We have a lot of water here.
Yeah. It's not, if you look at the roof and everywhere, it's not, it's from the drill rig. So it's no water from the face or from the tunnel itself. It's from the drill rig and the drilling.
So here we have reached the end of the tunnel, which symbolizes the future of Europe. 5 kilometers further, we have the Bergheir rare earth deposit, which can provide us with the critical metals that we need for a transition to clean energy, clean mobility, and which also allows us to set up the full value chain from mine to EV in Europe. And that's what we really want.
That's really powerful talk from you there. How important is the Bergheir deposit for the Europe electric vehicle industry?
Well, first of all, I have to congratulate the PR people of LKAB for putting this in the world, because they received so much global attention for this deposit, which they knew about for a long time already. But the way it was done, it was absolutely brilliant. So they need a pay rise, I would say, these people, whoever was behind it. Because for the first time, we really had the global attention and obviously also the European attention. I know that all the key EC people, Šefčovič and von der Leyen, they were all in Kiruna to see this. So you really put the cat amongst the pigeons there for sure. How important is it? Well, I think it's one of the 5 key strategic rare earth deposits we have in Europe. I would say there's one in Finland, which is Sokli, one in Norway is the Fen complex. We have Kringlerne in Greenland, and there is one more, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention that one here, because it's also in Sweden and it's more sensitive than Bergheir, it's Norra Kärr. So if you put these 5 together, then no way we have any more dependency issues towards the Chinese. We would have probably even 2 of those would be enough to help us becoming 100% self-sufficient for rare earth extraction in Europe. So how important is Bergheir? Well, it's the biggest in terms of tons of rare earth oxides that are available. 1.3 million tons is the official number, I understand. But of course, it's also key to look at the ratio between heavy rare earths and light rare earths. Bergheir is more enriched in light rare earths, so what we also need is terbium, dysprosium, the really heavy rare earths, and those are more concentrated in the Norra Kärr deposit, which is in the south of Sweden. And as far as I understand, this is a project which has way more local opposition for coming to fruition, even though that one is essential to also produce the heavy rare earths that are essential for the wind turbines and the EV motors.
I know there is a section of this film that I know is especially important for you. We're going to show the next clip.
Despite all the positive comments of the locals, there is one group of people that resists. The indigenous Sami population. They have lived in and with nature for millennia. Fishing, hunting, and reindeer husbandry are central to Sami culture and society. The new mining expansion goes against everything they stand for.
Hello, Stefan.
Boris, welcome to Sápmi.
Thank you for willing to speak to me.
Yes, thank you for the invitation.
I have some questions for you. Don't know if it's safe for me to stand here.
Yes, of course, why not?
I have no food. So reindeer husbandry is your history and your present.
Yes, it is. Following my ancestors' choice of life and culture.
Yeah, and I understand that you believe this way of living is under pressure now from the mining industry here and potential expansions of the mining.
Yes,
is that the case?
Yes, the green transition and the demands from European Union puts very big pressure on the indigenous peoples of the Arctic. We are not the entertainment for European Union or Europeans, we have the right to continue with our culture and livelihoods and reindeer husbandry if we choose so ourselves, and we do obviously do so.
Now there's a dilemma, right? Just over 1,000 living off reindeer husbandry in Sweden. They want to continue their culture, of course, but then we need what we need to extract from the earth for a reason. How do you think about this?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. It's by far the most painful moment during the filming in Finland and Sweden that we did for this documentary. I respect the man enormously. I respect what they have to say about this, and I think we should take it seriously. For me, and this is also why we're going to produce a mini documentary which is coming out in 2 weeks actually. It's called The Sami Perspective, and we will go into this dilemma in more detail. It also, by the way, integrates an interview with my good friend Anders Sant of Boliden, of R&D, Boliden, in which we delve into this dilemma. And for me, it's essential to start from a scientific observation that globally, 54% of all mines for energy transition metals are on indigenous lands. 54%. Not because, from a geological point of view, 54% of all deposits are on those lands. It's because there is something like the NIMBY of the rich versus the NIMBY of the poor and the oppressed. And what we see on a global level is that the people who are living and who are well organized and who are rich, they are able to stop mines from opening in their backyard. And as a result, we see that the mines are being pushed to the peripheral regions in the world. And to a certain extent, you might also have this in Sweden.
Do you mean we should drill in other places? Where there's no Sapmi people, or
what I mean is that it's just a factual observation that the mines are typically on indigenous lands in the world. Because, and in Belgium this is 1,000 times more extreme here than in Sweden, but we have this banana experience, build absolutely nothing anywhere near anything, or not in my backyard. All the same expressions of the unwillingness to have industry in general close to where we live. So when people are well off, rich, organized, politically powerful, they can block anything from happening. In Belgium, we can't get a permit for anything, not even for a battery recycling factory. So my point is that the Sami have some right to speak because their way of living is, let's say, completely different. It's not a consumerist lifestyle that a typical city dweller would have in Brussels or in Stockholm, who drives a Tesla car, has 25 smartphones, has special TVs in his room, goes on city trip to Barcelona or wherever. So these people, they enjoy all the luxuries, but they don't want the mines in their backyard. They want the mines to be in Congo, in Indonesia, in China, and maybe also in Kiruna, so far out of sight. So I think this is a dilemma which I also ping-pong to the Swedish people and to maybe not the people here, but the people in general here. We need mines, so I fully agree with the fact that we need metals and we need to produce them where the deposits are. So if the Norrachar deposit is here in the south of Sweden, we should also look at that and not say, no, let it just be in Kiruna. So we also need to look at that one because that's where, of course, my perspective is a European perspective. We need the clean tech transition to be successful, but we don't want to deindustrialize Europe either. We don't want to be reliant on China for our climate targets. So we have to produce our metals here. So I'm on the same wavelength as Euromines or Svemin or whoever talks about mining in Europe. We need domestic extraction and refining in a responsible way in Europe where the deposits are, so also in Portugal where we have lithium, in Serbia where we have lithium, in Greece where we have nickel, in Kiruna where we now also have rare earths, but also in Norrachar. Why not?
Of course. But can you also understand the frustration from many people, not least in the industry, because there are it is so critical that we get this mining done. If you compare it to the number of Sami actually depending on husbandry in this region?
Yeah, of course, it's a tough one. So I do think we need to further develop. I think Boliden has really inspired me with their indigenous commitment statement on their website. So they take this seriously. They have this continuous stakeholder dialogue. They have lots of people working continuously with Sami who live close to the mines, and I hear lots of good things about that. So I think clearly that's part of the solution. A community-centric benefit-sharing model needs to be further enhanced, further developed though. So I do think, again, for the Swedish and for the Finnish and the Norwegians who have this particular situation in Europe, that you have Sami in the north of your countries. So I think we need to take this community-centric benefit-sharing model one step further and also make sure that a certain percentage of the taxes on revenues are somehow recirculated to the Sami parliament and let them decide on how they want to invest this money in Sami tourism, Sami culture, but give them a little bit more than they're getting now, because I have visited the Sami parliament, and to be frank, I was really sad to see that building. I had seen a photograph of the Sami parliament.
Sametinget, yes.
And apparently that was the Norwegian Sami parliament. And it was a beautiful building, something like this here. And then I came to the Sami parliament in Sweden, and we were wanting to film there, and I said to Stefan Mikaelsson, okay, where is your parliament? He said, no, this is it. I said, what? Is this it? And that was really shabby building. It was an old, dilapidated school building. That was their Sami parliament. I don't think that's the best we can do. I think we can do better than that.
A lot of people are agreeing with you.
Yeah, because we want to open the mines. I mean, it's essential.
Yes.
So we want to get them on board. We want to make them part of the solution and not part of the problem. So let's find a compromise.
Philip, do we have ready another clip?
But it's not just about mining the metals in Europe. We also need to process and refine them into high-purity metals. How can we as Europe become less dependent? Here in Finland, they show us the way.
This is the heart of the smelter, so to say.
And 3 people are managing the whole thing.
Yeah. Of course, we have a separate control room for the acid plants, but this is for the smelter.
In the past decades, the refining industry has moved primarily to China. Look at the Chinese market share for refining critical metals. The Chinese are in this domain even more dominant than in mining itself.
Can you explain to me why the Chinese have become so powerful in the refining business for copper, nickel, lithium, rare earths, anywhere, anything?
They have been investing on different processing technologies for decades already. Plus, they have been sourcing raw materials for their processes globally.
So how can we then still compete with them? What's our competitive advantage?
We have to be more efficient. We have a smelter run by a total of 570 people. In China, I would guess there would be easily 2,000 to 3,000 working in the similar plant. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, this is the anode copper. Some spills during the casting. And in my opinion, this is a piece of art.
I think that's a very sweet moment.
I was very proud of that.
In the film, yeah. But in the interview that you were doing there about the Chinese, that our comparative advantage is efficiency. But won't the Chinese apply more efficiency too? How could we really beat them with efficiency?
It's going to be very tough, and I think there is one serious misconception amongst the European people, maybe not here again because you're aware of the industry or what's happening, but don't think that the Chinese are stupid, that they are silly, or that they're not catching up very quickly. In the area of batteries and EV production, they are ahead of Europe. They are smarter than Europe. They have leapfrogged Europe. So battery production in China, new battery chemistries, they are ahead of Europe. So I think where we still have the edge, and especially here in the Nordic countries, is in the metallurgy and in the mining. I think your automation programs, your electrification programs, companies like LKAB and Boliden show that in their mines, the way that they're doing that, it's really special. So I think there you're still ahead. And in metallurgy in general, I think we also still have an advantage, especially also in the field of recycling of metals with companies like Aurubis and Umicore, although they're now also being targeted by the mafia, as you know, Aurubis in particular. So it's a tricky one. We really have to wake up and keep our efficiency up. And for me, the main thing why we made this documentary is we need to explain to every European citizen that we need this vertical integrated strategy from mine to refinery to battery plant to EV. We need all different parts of the value chain, partially at least in Europe, and we need to de-silo them, because that's what the Chinese have done brilliantly. The Chinese have this full vertical integration, and they cover the whole thing. It's a long-term vision. It's beyond the silos. They know what they're doing. They're not jeopardized by electoral cycles of every 5 years where decisions are overturned. And we in Europe, we have silos. We have a mine, we have maybe a battery plant, but they're not talking to each other. There is no integrated, comprehensive strategy. So the CRMA is trying to do that to a certain extent. The Net Zero Industry Act is trying to do that in a certain extent, but we're still miles behind China. And if we don't wake up quickly, if we don't get this right, and for me, I think the key message is we need to open our minds now.
But how quickly? How quickly?
Within the next 5 years, our lithium, nickel, cobalt, rare earth mines, copper mines, they need to be open, because if we don't do this now, the window of opportunity is closed and we've lost the race forever. And what is Northvolt going to put in its battery factory if we don't produce European raw materials? What are they going to do if the Chinese close the tap for nickel, for cobalt, for lithium, for graphite, basically everything? So if we don't produce this quickly, we don't get this into production, then we're lost. So it has to happen now. And
will it happen now? Or will we lose it? Will we lose the car industry to China?
Well, that's already happening now, but I think the Critical Raw Materials Act is a beacon of hope. It's going to be coming to action, I understand, from April. That's what I've heard recently. So then the strategic projects, and let Per Geyer be a strategic project, let Norachar be a strategic project that are fast-tracked for permitting so that we can get these online within the next, let's say, 5 years. Also for lithium, if lithium mines don't open now, they might open at the time when sodium-ion batteries are taking over, and then we have a lithium mine, whereas we need sodium by then. So it's got to happen now. The window of opportunity is closing, so let's get our act together, no pun intended.
So we are finishing this conversation on the rather dramatic note. Thank you so much, Tom Peter Jones, for being here and talking about your film, Made in the EU.
Thank you.
Förlåt? Sure. Yes, of course. Do you have a microphone?
Thank you so much for an interesting presentation. I just have a very short comment. My name is Ia Moden. I'm a lawyer. I'm working in intellectual property and collaborations. But I felt that I just needed to make a short, brief comment, and I won't stop you. I'm probably the only one in this room with voting rights in the Sami parliament. And I just want to say something regarding your view on the Sami issues. And that is that I think that you have been listening to very slanted and very partial Sami activism. And I just want to state that there are other views by Sami people and by Sami people who consider them fully Swedish, and that there are a lot of different solutions to the conflicts that you will not hear from Sami reindeer activists. And anyone who wants to speak to me about Sami issues, come find me.
I will definitely speak to you. In fact, we also launched an interview I did with Stefan Mikkelson. It's available on our Vimeo channel. It's a 22 minutes interview in which we talk about the dilemma between reindeer herding Sami and non-reindeer herding Sami. Because I know that a lot of the latter category are also working in the Boliden and LKAB mines, and they are 100% supportive of the activities there. So there is indeed a difference between, I'm not saying it's a homogeneous view, but of course there are also reindeer herding Sami that have their traditional indigenous way of life. And I think it would be sad if we would lose that. So we have to protect that somehow, but we need to find a good compromise.
One just final 2 seconds from you.
No, I just wanted to make that point, and I think that even if you include like the fishing and hunting Sami, you also miss out a very big group of people of Sami heritage and ancestry who are not living like that. So
I would love to make a new documentary on this. If you give me some budget, I will make it. And I'll interview all the time. Give me some budget.
Yeah, you can have a new seminar in 5 minutes outside.